Hello everyone. In this lecture, we are going to learn about liberalism, and so far we have discussed with the realism, neo-realism, and we have also discussed with idealism. So, idealism is the first approach to the study of international relations, and it is comes under the domain of liberalism. In fact, it is the branch of liberalism. Though realism is regarded as a dominant theory of international relations, but liberalism has a strong claim to being the historic alternative. Basically, liberalism criticizes the argument which has been given by realist thinkers. So that's why in 20th century, liberal thinking influenced many policy making elites and public opinion in number of the Western states after the First World War. So this particular area has been referred as what? Idealism. So after the First World War, League of Nations was formed, and it clearly shows the successful side of the liberal thinking. But after the failure of the League of Nations, it gave birth to the Second World War, and liberal idealism has been criticized by the realist thinkers. But again, liberalism has been came into the picture by the formation of what? United Nations after the end of the Second World War. But this hope has been also extinguished by the return of Cold War power politics. So after the Second World War, what happened was that conflict was started between the United States and the Soviet Union. So conflict is all about ideological conflict between the communism and the capitalism. So USA believe or follows the ideology of the capitalism or liberal democracy. On the other hand, Soviet Union follow the ideology of what? Communism. So after the Cold World War, so end of the Cold World War, again liberalism has been appeared, and most of the Western leaders, they have proclaimed the new world order. So why new world order? Because communism has been defeated by the liberal democracy or the capitalism, and that clearly justifies the supremacy of the liberal ideas. Again, this end of the Cold War, the various international scholars, especially the Francis Fukuyama, give the notion of the end of the history. So why end of the history? Because communism has been defeated by the liberal democracy or the capitalism. And again liberal thinking or liberalism became successful after the Cold World War, but the international system has been facing many problems and challenges. For example, terrorist attack in World Trade Center on 11 September 2011. So though liberalism became successful after the Second World War, so international system has been facing many problems like terrorist attack. Okay, and unlike realists, okay, realists give more emphasis to the power, okay, states, but thinkers liberal scholars believe in what? State as a constitutional entity, and which establishes and enforces rule of law. And what is the main function of the state is to protect the life, liberty of the property of an individual. So they believe in constitutionality of the states. So the concept of liberal ideology has been developed in the work of John Locke, Jeremy Bentham. So Jeremy Bentham, who gave the idea of what? International law. Again, you have this Immanuel Kant, who gave the concept of what? Perpetual peace. Okay, who also believe in the constitutionality of the state. And as per liberal belief in human progress, and when it comes to the idea of human progress, like modernization, okay, so modernization is a process involving progress in most of the areas, and this modern liberal state involves political economic system that would bring a new better life free from authoritarian. So they do not believe in authoritarian. Okay, so they believe in what? Liberal democracy, welfareism. So the scholars of the liberal beliefs in positive side of the human nature. So they presented optimistic side of human nature, optimistic side of world order. Okay, but on the other hand, realist believes in what? Pessimistic view of human nature, pessimistic view of world order, and negative side of world order. And what liberal thinkers believe in? Positive or the optimistic side of human nature. So human nature or human being are driven by their own reason. Okay, so human being, they have the rationality. So rationality means human being have a, they know what is wrong and what is right. So if that rationality could be applied in the international system, that could bring greater cooperation in the international system. And so that's why what they argues is that rationality which brings the cooperation and cooperation in the international system rather than conflict. And according to Michael Doyle, who provides four-dimensional definition of liberalism, so first one is all citizens are juridically equal and possess certain basic rights to education, free press, religious tolerance, etc. Second one, the legislative assembly of the state possesses only the authority invested in it by the people whose basic right it cannot be abused. So state possesses certain rights. Okay, so they need to protect the rights of the citizens, so not more than that. And right to own property and productive forces. So effective system of economic exchange. So liberals believe in free trade. Okay, so economic exchange. And according to liberals, despite existence of anarchy, it is the identity of the state that determines its outward orientation. So the central theme of liberalism in all its form is the notion of harmony. So they believe in notion of harmony or balance amongst the competing interest. Okay, and competing interest can be complementary and add to gains for all. So there are various core principles of liberalism. So first one is liberty. So they believe in individual freedom. Okay, so individual means like it is individual is more important than collectivism, and they believe in rule of law, equality before the law. All are equal in the eyes of law. So civil society, free market means non-interference from the government. Tolerance, belief one should not interfere or disagree. Okay, so peace, they believe in peace, non-intervention to the other country, free movement of goods and services, limited government. So what is the aim of the government? So aim of the government is to protect life, liberty and property of an individual. So they also believe in collective security. So collective security means, like for example, you have NATO. So if you, like, if any country attacked member of the NATO, that shows the attack of whole country. So that is the collective security. So open diplomacy, democratic peace, moral primacy of individual against claims of any social collectively. Rights of liberty, life, property are natural and they are inviolable. So egalitarian, universalism. So these all are the core principles of liberalism. So now coming back to the historical background. So liberalism concept or theory we can trace back to the age of enlightenment of late 17th century. So when there was whole range of political, economical, cultural, scientific changes occurred in the European countries, and which gave three main ideas such as individual freedom, reason and progress. So these three reasons, liberty, progress, were not separated, okay, issues. And this individual freedom and freedom to make own choices was seen as essential for the ability to rational to be within reason. So this enlightenment is a reformation, and reformation is give birth to the individual freedom, reason, and progress of the people, okay, so of the human being. And simultaneously, so our ability to be rational is something that we need in order to preserve our freedom. So people have a rationality. So rationality means you know what is wrong and what is right, so that clearly or that preserve the freedom of an individual. And they believe in human progress, okay, human civilization. So classical liberal thinkers, so the advent of classical liberal thinkers can be traced back to 17th and 18th century with the coming of the social contract traditions, and which was further an outcropping of reformation and enlightenment. So according to the classical liberalism, individual possess certain natural rights which are prior to the emergence of political authority. So what they argues is that individual possess certain natural rights, so before the formation of any states, and the main aim or justification of the states or the government is to protect the life rights of an citizens, okay. And what they believe is that state is man-made institution and rest on ideals of constitutionalism and rule of law. So further, like state considered as a necessary evil, which has been given by Thomas Paine. So according to liberal thinkers, state is a necessary evil. So why necessary evil? Because they only have to protect the rights of the people. And according to the John Locke, state can walk, like they function as a night watchman. So among the liberal thinkers, John Locke was the earlier proponents of the liberal thought, and in his book True Treaties and Civil Government reputates, okay, divine rights theory and support the limited government. Again, in his book, he emphasized the existence of the natural law. Okay, so individual possess some kind of natural rights. For example, right to life, liberty, and property. So they are the natural rights of an individual. Further, what he states that state is the artificial creation, and there should be certain government for the protection of rights of people. So individual possess certain natural rights, for example, life, liberty, and property, and state is the artificial creation. So what is the function of the state? The function of the state is to protect the rights of the citizen, not more than that, okay. So state act as a night watchman. Another most important classical liberalism thinker is your Immanuel Kant, in his like essay Perpetual Peace, where he like mentioned the human freedom and rationality can produce good governance. And in his like Perpetual Peace, he gave like three more important arguments. So first argument is he believes in what? Institutions. So institutions like United Nations, so that also brings some kind of cooperation or peace in the international system. So if you become member of any institutions, so that automatically brings some kind of cooperation in the international system. So second, what he like states that government should follow the republic. Okay, so why republic? Because like in what happens in the republic state of government, so you elect your leader. Okay, so when you elect your leader, so leader would be accountable towards the citizens. So public opinion play a very important role. So that could also bring change, peace or cooperation in the international system. And again, what he argues is that democracies do not fight each other. So all the countries, if they follow the policy of democracy, then they could not go for war, okay. And but on the other hand, what he also argues is that non-democratic country go to war with democratic country, but democratic country cannot go war with another democratic country. So that could also bring some kind of global peace in the international system. So third argument which he promotes is that peace can be achieved through the trade. Okay, so the trade increases wealth, cooperation and global well-being. So international cooperation can be achieved through trade in the international system. Okay, economic interdependence. If the country involved in the economic activities, okay, market forces, then cannot a country cannot go for war. So these are the three main arguments which has been given by Kant, Immanuel Kant. So another important classical liberal thinker is your Adam Smith in his work Wealth of Nations, who propounds the economic view of man, whereas the sphere of economic is that of freedom. So economic activities or market forces cannot be interfered by the government. Okay, so that's why the concept of laissez-faire has been also like immersed in the classical liberal thinkers. And what is the main function of the states? So the main function of the state is what? External security, okay, law and order, and ensuring justice. So they are the external like function of the state. But like what he argues is that economic, okay, interdependence. So in the market forces or the economic activities, state should not interfere. Okay, so what is the function of the state? The main function of the state is to states are external security, okay, to maintain the law and ensure the justice of the people. So another like classical thinker is your Jeremy Bentham, and the fundamental axiom of utilitarian theory. So the utilitarian theory has been given by Jeremy Bentham. This basically focuses on what? Greatest happiness of greatest number, which determine the right or wrong of an individual. So Jeremy Bentham has also like believe in international law, and who coined the internationalism. So if a country like believe in international law, so peace can be achieved. So they all are the classical thinkers, okay, liberal classical thinkers. Now coming back to the criticism of liberalism. So liberalism has been criticized in the many ground. So the first one is the critic claim that interdependence will not wipe out hegemony and dependency in interstate relations, as power is unequally distributed among nation states. So liberalism has been criticized on the ground that interdependence cannot be wiped out. Why? Because power has been unequally distributed. Means some of the states are powerful and some of the states are weak. Okay, so that's why interdependence cannot be achieved in the international system, and that's why the dominant powers frame rules under which mutual cooperation flourishes. So according to realist thinkers, what they have argued is that dominant power could bring mutual cooperation in the international system, rather than like economic interdependence. And secondly, many developing countries sharply oppose idea of free trade. What they have argued is that free trade is nothing but imperial weapon used by rich and powerful states to open the economy of developing countries for resource exploitation and repatriation of profits. So this theory has been criticized on the ground of free trade. So most of the country oppose free trade because it has become the weapon of the rich countries to exploit the weaker countries. And third criticism, the liberals favor worldwide expansion of democratic government. Okay, so they believe in democratic government, but socio-economic conditions of many regions are not congenial for successful operation of democracy. So they believe in democratic principle, but many countries are like countries, they have their own problems, socio-economic problems, and that could cannot be like they cannot like opt for the liberal democracy. So in this ground, this theory has been criticized. And lastly, the liberals are eager to impose Western culture on all states of the world. The moral value judgment of Western liberals may not be acceptable to people of different regions of the world. And the liberal like thinkers believed like they want to impose Western culture to all the states. Okay, but most of the countries do not want to accept this kind of Western culture. So in this ground, liberal theory has been criticized. So this is all about the liberalism. Thank you so much.